Alicia, for being here and for just sharing your story with me and for anyone who watches.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yeah. So let's get started. I like to start with how and when, I guess, did this infertility process start for you? Just take us through your journey and tell us like how old you were when you found out that you needed some help.
Okay. So I was around 30 years old when I realized that the old fashioned way was just not going to work. I got married to my husband when I was 28. We have been together now for over 15 years, which is like crazy. Thank
Congratulations.
you. And so I feel like I always just thought, okay, it's definitely going to happen. So once we get married, we're going to take our time. I'm going to go travel, like do all this stuff. 30 sounded like a nice round number, like great, I'm going to get started. So 30 was the year that I realized it's not working. So between 30, 31, I even waited because I was so embarrassed to tell my OB what I was going through because I thought like she's just going to tell me, relax, which is like what everyone says, relax, like, take a prenatal, do some yoga, all things that I had already done, by the way. And then it got to the point where it was like 2 years and I was like, all right, there must be something not quite right. So just on a routine appointment with her, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, we've been trying and it hasn't been working. And she's like, how long? And then, right away, she's like, oh, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have you get an HSG test and then come back to me with that and we'll discuss it. At this point, I was like, whoa, okay, I'm already getting thrown into testing. And I'm just like, so then I was like, great, I'm going to get the HSG. I even had heard the person that did my HSG, she was telling me, oh, in my country, people do the HSG as part of just like anybody who wants to get pregnant does the HSG. It's just to clear yourself out. So that kind of gave me false hope too, because I was like thinking, great, like this is going to clear me out. People do this every day in this country, and that's just part of what they do to get pregnant. And I got the results from the HSG. Everything was clear, of course. I'm like on cloud nine again. Yes, this is what I needed. So I go back to my doctor and she's like, okay, well, if you've been trying since the HSG and it's not working, I'm going to give you a recommendation to go see a fertility doctor. So I was so happy that she recommended someone because the interesting thing about everything that I'm going to talk about is that my husband and I went through this alone. We didn't tell anybody we were going through this. And it was me. My husband is very open. He's like, oh, whatever, like this is normal. People go through this. He's much more understanding of the reality of things. And I'm much more emotional. And I was like, so embarrassed. So I couldn't reach out to like friends. Do you know any fertility? It was just not there. So I was happy that she gave me a recommendation. And I'm like very partial to female doctors. It's just what I'm comfortable with. So I was so happy that it was a female doctor. So I was like, yes, this is all working out. The clinic was beautiful. Not that that matters, but it was very stunning. So again, I'm on cloud nine. I'm going there with my great HSG results. At this point, I'm still trying naturally. And we went for a consultation. And she was like, okay, explained everything to me. I was honestly taken aback at how normal it seemed. Like I went in and it was just, we sat at the desk with her and she was like, okay, I want to let you know that I see thousands of women every year and men, and I don't want you to feel, embarrassed and it's like she could read my mind. Like she already knew going in there. I was even embarrassed like to her. And this is like what she does because I felt like I'm young and I'm healthy. This is embarrassing. Like, honestly, that's just how I could describe it. So she went over everything. She was so good because she explained things in a way that I could understand. She drew me pictures, which preschool teacher here, like that really spoke to my heart because she drew all these pictures for me and she explained, let me backtrack a little. My husband got tested before we made it because the doctor had a little bit of a wait to get an appointment. So he went and he got an analysis done actually at the same clinic. And he was completely, there was nothing, no red flags or anything. So at this point, she's going over, okay, well, this is, his results. And according to your HSG, we're going to just at this point, we're going to say you have unexplained infertility, which at first I was like, oh, okay. I'm thinking like, okay, that's good because now, there's nothing like that she's telling me is wrong. So again, maybe there's nothing wrong.
Right.
But then as she started to explain it, I started to feel like, well, like, dang, I really wish she could tell me what was wrong because then I could focus on fixing it. And I always wondered, like, would them not knowing what's wrong make the process harder to navigate? And it totally did. It did for me because I constantly was like hard on myself about it not making sense. Like if I had something wrong with a tube or a blockage or my husband's count was low, I could be like, you know what? Now we know to fix that. But I didn't, there was nothing wrong. And it was like, I just felt even more broken. And it's just like the way your mind takes over.
Totally.
So, so we got the HSG test. We went to the fertility clinic. I started, I think, August of 2019. I went in and, the same day they do the consultation, she wanted to take all the vials of blood. She said in the very beginning, we are going to do the genetic screening for both you and your husband just to get it out of the way. And I was like, okay. So we did all that. And then 2 days later, I think, she had called. So she told me, we're going to do a bunch of blood. When's the last time you had a period? And I was telling her, I haven't been tracking my period. Honestly, I said, I give up on tracking. I mean, I was just like, I don't know when's the last time I had one, because when you're trying so hard to make something work, every day you don't have one is a blessing. So I'm just like, whatever, great. And she's like, well, okay, well, we're going to do a pregnancy test on you. And I was like, oh God, here we go. Like, another. So she ended up calling me 2 days later and the doctor said I was pregnant.
What?
And I was at that point, it was still like over the summer. So I wasn't back in work yet. And I was just like crying on the phone. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And I'm thinking like, at that point, I was probably like, I don't even know, a couple weeks maybe. But I was like, oh my gosh, I had a glass of wine. I went on this trip. Like I didn't know.
Right.
So then she said, okay, we want you to come back for the second blood test. And then I had gone back and then she had told me, okay, well, it looks like you're around like 6 weeks. But she said that the numbers were really low. So she's like, I just want to let you know you're going to miscarry. Like 100%. And at that point, I like lost it because I'm like, okay, I never thought that could happen to me. First of all, I never thought infertility could happen to me. But then like you start to think, or at least I start to think, is it something that I did? I didn't know that I was pregnant because I was so used to not being pregnant that I'm like, could I have done something differently? Or I don't know. It was really hard. So my husband, I mean, it was difficult, but I feel like the way that I got through it physically and didn't stop just dead in my tracks was I told her like, okay, like what's next? She's like, okay, this is the process of miscarrying at your stage. When this is finished, you can start actual treatments. And I was like, absolutely. That's just what I like to do. Get right back into it. Otherwise, I'll sit and I'll think too much. Although my mental, thoughts about the miscarriage are still they're still there. They're always going to be there. But I knew that I didn't want to let that stop me from my goal. So I was like, I can still have these, but I can still move forward.
Yeah.
So we moved forward with IUIs. We ended up doing 2 IUIs. She said only to do 2 for us because of my age. It was just like her recommendation. She said if it doesn't work by the second one for our situation, she would just recommend doing IVF. And every time they would scan me, my follicles and everything, and they would always say, oh, you have such a great reserve for IVF. And I remember looking at them like, can you stop saying that? Are you
Huh.
jinxing me right now? Stop saying I have a good reserve for IVF because we're doing IUIs right now. But I think looking back, they were just trying to prepare me that if they did say let's do IVF, that I would go into it, you know, knowing that I had a chance or feeling like I had a
Right.
chance. Which, looking back, I'm thankful that it wasn't, that they were saying that and they were sort of like priming me, this doesn't always work, because it helped me. So the IUIs did not work. They just, I never got pregnant off of them. I never, nothing worked with that. But it was like, okay, fine. I have a good reserve. So here we go. And so that would bring us probably, I started in August 2019 with the IUIs. And then I went, it's so funny because I actually, that November, I brought my trigger shot with me to Bali.
Oh,
I had
wow.
to put it because I was like, I'm going on a trip and I didn't know I was not going to be able to get pregnant. I didn't know I was going to have to do IUIs and all this stuff. And should I cancel? And she was like, absolutely not. Because if anything, you're going to be very relaxed and it might just help you. And so I actually brought my shot in a Yeti water bottle, 23 hours across the world. Like, it was so funny going through TSA with this shot. I was like, I have a prescription for this shot.
I
But I was
bet.
not letting that leave my side. And then,
Yeah.
I had to do the shot like at a certain hour when I was going to fly home. So this has
The
been,
things we do.
I know. My husband's like, when we got on the airplane, my husband had asked the person, is there anywhere we can put this shot? They were like, yeah, of course. People give us their diabetic medication and everything. And they just put like a medical label and they put it in their fridge. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. I didn't think, I felt so weird traveling with a syringe, but people probably have to do that all the time.
Right.
So yeah, so it was a good experience for that. And so when we came back from that, again, right away, I was like, okay, what's next? Because I'm like, these are not working. Every single day that's going by that I'm just gonna sit here, I'm not able to forward myself.
Right.
And I also think I should probably state that I live in New Jersey, and in New Jersey, fertility coverage is mandated. And so I did end up at the end of everything probably spending like close to $20,000, which I want to say that because and that was with full coverage from my insurance. And that is just testing I had to do and things like that. You do end up having to pay a lot out of pocket. Most things are optional, but for peace of mind, I wanted to do those. So that's why I was able to, for anyone who sees this and who couldn't, jump into something, I don't want to make it like you can just jump into the next thing. I had coverage for 4.5 rounds, which is like very bizarre. A half a round. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. But they actually said that that's some of the best insurance coverage that they've seen at my clinic. And I was like, I'll take it. So
wow. 4.5 rounds of IVF?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so again, I was like, well, here we go. Let's go. I mean, we don't have to wait to accumulate any money. We don't have to fundraise. Thank goodness. Yeah. So I started in January of 2020 with my IVF class. Okay. I took that. It was very overwhelming. The class was way harder than the actual IVF.
So complicated.
Oh my gosh, they made it like they gave you like the fake flubber skin to like put the shot in, and I was like trembling. I was like, but then my husband did all my shots, and he's like, "This is so much easier than they made it. So don't be scared of your IVF classes." So we did that, and then my first round was in, I believe the whole process is actually longer than I thought. I thought like you get the shots and then within a couple of weeks, but I started the class the first week of January, and I didn't do my first round of IVF, like retrieval or transfer, until March. So okay. Wow. That to me, that when you're trying to get your baby, that seems like a long time.
Every month is a long time.
Oh my gosh. I know. So my first round, I got like a ton of eggs, which I was like, yes. Again,
Yeah.
very naive because I didn't understand the process at that point, that like eggs really don't mean baby, right? Like a process. So I learned all of that, and we ended up with two, we genetically tested the embryos, which looking back, I'm so thankful. At first I was like, that's a big expense. I don't know. But my husband's like, listen, we don't want to risk another miscarriage. And we just really spoke about it, and what that would do to us again. And I couldn't risk it. So we made the decision financially. We were like, okay, we're gonna have to, cut some things here and there, but we did it. And then from, I think, 8 that we chose to test, because the package that we could afford was only 8. I mean, I think we had like 15 that we could have sent, but of the 8 that we chose, only 2 were normal.
So how many eggs were initially taken out?
32.
Dang, that's a lot of eggs.
They called me a hen. They said I was a hen.
Yes, that's a lot. Okay, so 32, and then it went down to, you said it like 15
I think
embryos?
it was like 32. I think that matured from that were 18. And then I was going to send, I had 12 that were able to be sent from 18.
Was it day 5 or day 6, or do you remember?
I don't remember, honestly.
That's okay.
Yeah, I remember.
So 12, so out of 12, you could only choose 8.
Yes, I could have chosen more, but then I would have had to spend,
more money.
Like around 10,000 to test those. And I would have had to spend that. I would have had to buy a second package.
Wow.
Even if let's just say I had 9 and I wanted to test all 9 to not leave that one out, I would have had to buy another package of 8. And they say you can save it for the future, but I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
So
I guess they chose like the best looking ones.
They chose what they thought, yes. And then from there, she told me, she had asked me, you only want me to do 8, right? And I said, yeah, 8 is, and of course I'm thinking, again, very naive, but understandable. It was my first time. I was thinking, they're all going to be normal. And like, I definitely don't know if I want 8 children. And then I was left with 2. Actually, yeah, I had 2, and then I had 1 that was mosaic. But the doctor was going over what the mosaic, the mosaic and all that stuff. And she was like, it's transferable, but it would not be something that I would say, like, if you don't have to, don't. But that one is also, that's still frozen, that one. And so
how did you feel like when you got that phone call from the embryologist? I'm assuming, you have this number of 8. What are you thinking when you went in that conversation?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was my doctor, not the embryologist that called
me.
That's another thing I loved about my clinic. My doctor, she would call me for everything. It was always her on the phone. And I felt it was almost like she was like a motherly figure. And it felt so safe talking to her. She even spoke to me like I was her daughter. And I felt like it was such a great relationship. And when she called me to tell me that, well, no, she didn't call me to tell me about the eggs. Actually, I found out about the eggs in the recovery room. They come in and they tell you right away. Like, she comes in and she was like, you got 32. She's like, you're a hen. And I was like, funny. Oh, of course, I'm still coming out of it. And I was like, oh, wow. Thinking like, great, wow. Actually, it's so funny because on Instagram, you can see like 1 year ago today on your Instagram. And the picture, let me see if I can show you. The picture from 1 year ago today is, mind you, I wasn't like telling anyone about this, but let's see.
And that's so hard to keep all of that inside while you're doing that.
So 1 year ago today, this was so I guess it was today that I thought that I got my thing. This was can you see?
Wow, oh, that's cute. I can. Wow.
But no one knew what that meant. It was just like, oh, this girl likes 32.
Yeah.
But it was a way for me to just like celebrate it, but not have anyone know.
Right.
No one knew. Now look, I told people, they were like, we were wondering what that meant.
How
So
funny.
yeah, actually that it was today that I had my retrieval 1 year.
Incredible. Wow. And now we're talking about it. How cool.
I know. Um,
So your
but
doctor
yeah,
calls you.
so she told me I had 32, and then she tells me, okay, how many of those they tell you sort of like the track, okay, on this day, this many were matured, and then we have 5. I had, actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'm remembering the 2 that I had that ended up being the final 2. One of them was a day 6 and one was a day 5. And I
Okay.
believe, see, I feel like I like block everything out. And unless it's like great news, I just let it go.
Move on. You move
Um,
on.
so I think I had two embryos that we ended up freezing from that after testing them. So from 32 to 2, like what a drop. Uh,
Yeah.
what did I have? One was an AA and one was a BB. And I don't know, like it was just, I was like, yeah, transfer this one because this is like the gender that we want.
So you found out, you wanted to
Yes,
know what the gender was at that moment, and you found
yes.
out, and you don't have to share it.
No,
But
it's okay. No. So we did find out the genders.
okay.
Um, it was just, I felt like that was like a little piece of, like I get to do this. Like that's like the best thing about all this, trauma that you're going through. I'm like, I get to find out the genders. That's so cool. Like, let me
Yeah,
just hang on to this moment. Let me have something. But I totally understand why some people choose not to find out too.
of
But
course.
for us, it was like, this is cool. Like, we get to do this.
Yeah.
And so we chose to transfer one of them, which was a girl.
Okay.
I've never told anyone that, but I'm an open book. I am an open book. So we transferred the girl. My husband's like, I don't know, like we have a ton of boys in our family, and like it would be nice to just have a girl. And she said, like, the lab is not, they're not going to say no, but they're going to probably wonder why you chose the lower graded one.
She was the
And
BB.
yeah, and I
Okay.
was like, I don't know. I was like, I have faith. Like I've been praying about it, and it's, I think it'll be fine. If it's not meant to happen, then it doesn't matter if I transfer that now or later. It wasn't going to happen. So she was like, okay. And then we didn't get pregnant from that one. So
Wow.
that one was a no. And we said, my husband always jokes, he's like, she's like living she didn't want to be part of our family. Like she's living her life somewhere. She's probably royalty and someone's like royal family. And I feel like that's our way of like coping with the fact that she didn't come,
Yes.
to us. But
Right.
yeah, my husband he's like, he has the best sense of humor, and I feel like that really helps me get through things too. And then
Totally.
we had the other embryo was a boy. Of course, I feel like boys are so strong, at least
Hmm.
from my experience going through IVF. My boys have always been my strongest.
Huh.
Um, and so we had him. So I was like, all right, well, that's one. And then the doctor said, do you want to, transfer that one? And, he's an AA. We were saying he's like Usain Bolt, like the
Oh,
Olympian,
yes, yes, yes.
because he
Yes.
was so strong. I'm like, this is an AA. Like he's going to be like the gold medalist. And then I thought to myself, okay, I know how hard it was going through IVF. I didn't do any of my shots. My husband did all my shots. Just emotionally, like watching your body get bigger from bloat and just hormones. And I was still working at that time and just being sore. I was like, okay, let's say we transfer him, I get pregnant, and then I want to give him a sibling. Can I do this again? Because I'm 33, so I'm like, okay, I don't know how much time I have. Can I do this again with an infant toddler? Like, could I go through all of IVF again? Or is it smarter for me to just, before I'm pregnant, just try one more time? So my husband and I spoke about it, and he said, this was in the beginning of the pandemic now. It's March, April. And he's like, I think, you're going to be home because my school was closed. And he's like, I think if there's any time to do it, it might be now this might be God's way of saying, like, I'm slowing down your life so that you can get this. And I was like, okay, I trust it. I trust it. I believe in it. And so I told the doctor, I was like, I know we have the one frozen, but I want to, let's do another round right away. So she was like, okay, I support you. I'm going to send, you know, the medication and all that stuff. And another great thing, this is why you really have to check with your insurance. A lot of insurances, if you have an embryo that's frozen already, that's able to be transferred, they won't allow you to do another round. So they were explaining that to me, because it's the insurance companies are sort of like, why? Like, you already have a. So when they said that to me, I was like, oh my goodness, are they going to tell me no, I can't do another round? And she was like, well, we're going to call and find out. So they called me back and they were like, oh no, your insurance doesn't care.
Oh, good. Wow. But that's good to know, though.
Yes. And I didn't know that, but they told me at the clinic, and they said, well, you know, a lot of insurance companies, they just can't justify it if you already have a frozen embryo that is, you know, able to be transferred. Which I understand. I totally get it.
Right.
But for me, it wasn't that I was trying to be like greedy or anything. I was just trying to work in the best time frame.
Yeah.
And so we did that. My second time, I believe I got 22 eggs. This time, much easier. Second time around. Shots, okay. I was ready. I knew what to expect. I knew that Menopur was just like, I needed the grace of God to get through Menopur.
Yeah.
I had my routine. We played every single day. We would play worship music during my shots. And it's so funny because now when we listen to it, my husband's like, this song reminds me of your shots.
Oh, wow.
But I feel like just having the routine, knowing that my husband was going to be there to do them for me, the minute the music started playing, it was almost like I was a child getting my bedtime routine. Like, I would hear the music. I knew it was time for my shots, and I had my stable person to do them for me. And it got way easier the second time.
Good.
So then I got the 22. And then from that, I believe I had 12 that matured. And from that, 22 to 12. And then we genetically tested them again. We sent, I think the ones that made it to day 5, I think it was like 6 this time. Okay. It was something like, it was less than the last time. And so at the end of all that, we ended up getting 2 more. It's like,
wow.
2 is like I'm sorry, 3 more.
Okay.
3 more. Why can I not remember this?
Well, that's a little bit better.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't know how I don't remember this. My husband has it all on his phone. And he has all the grades and everything. So yeah. So I got 3 more plus my first little guy that I had frozen.
First round.
So I felt so relieved. I was like, yes, now before I know this is my time, like this is going to work, you know, cautiously optimistic.
Right.
And so I had my transfer in August. I had my transfer in August, but before I did my transfer this time, because I was like, listen, is there anything else I can do to prepare? I did acupuncture for the first round. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I don't know that could help or deter you from getting pregnant, but I just felt like acupuncture, every time I went, it made me very anxious. Like, the needles were fine. I was fine with it, but I could not relax. And I was like, it's just not worth it for me to be going through that anxiety again. So I didn't do it this time. She's like, no, you know, you're eating healthy, and, you know, it's good that you're at home, you're able to cook more. And I was like, yeah. So then the only other thing she said is, she was like, well, we can do an ERA. And of course I was like, what are all these tests? What is an ERA? Right. There's another test. She's like, oh, we're going to do like a biopsy of your lining to see, because, you know, it could just be as simple as you need more or less progesterone. And I was like, sign me up. This was not covered by my insurance, but I believe it was like around $1,000 or less. And so if that's going to make the difference, I was like,
it's worth it.
I will. Yes. I don't care. I will work at Home Goods on the weekends. Okay.
Right.
I am going to get this Era. So
Right.
I did the Era, and uncomfortable, but fast. Kind of like the HSG. I feel like a lot of this stuff is very uncomfortable, but fast.
Yes,
so it's like,
I agree.
you know, and I was like, great, perfect. So I came home, and then I believe 2 weeks later, they tell you, they called me and told me the results were that I needed an extra day. And I
Oh
was
my
like, no way. And
gosh.
I was, you don't understand. I felt like I was already pregnant at that point. Like I really
Yes.
believe I was pregnant at that point. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm pregnant. This is it. I needed the extra day. No wonder. I'm like, I was telling my husband, he's like, what does this mean? You know, he doesn't know. And I said, it means that there wasn't enough glue. There wasn't enough glue. The embryo couldn't stick to anything.
That's so funny.
And he's like, I get it. I get it. So I was like, yeah, we just needed some more glue. Like we were using Elmer's. This will take us up to like super glue. So he was like, I'm so happy we did this.
So
I
you're
added
pretty
the
receptive.
extra. Yes, I added the extra
Yeah.
day, and very happily, which who wants an extra shot? But I was like, give it to me.
Right.
If they said 5 extra days, I was gonna be like, give it.
That's right.
And so then I went in, and it was sort of like, it was, I don't really know. I feel like I had this dream that it's kind of like a weird dream. And this was like before I was pregnant. So I don't know, maybe I just have weird dreams, but I had this dream like leading up to where I had to decide what embryo I was going to transfer. We do have a mix of boys and girls.
Okay.
In the second round, in the second round, they're all different. The gradings are all okay. We do have AAs, and then we do have B minus, which is such an interesting way of grading. And I try to look up like deeper into what B minus is, but I don't know many places that use that grading. And so it's really hard.
I haven't heard it.
But so we were sort of like, okay, you know, well, I had this dream that there was this woman so I was in a parking garage, and there was this woman and this man, and for some reason the parking garage was like collapsing, and they had this baby, like an infant, and they were giving it to me, and it was blue. That blanket was blue. And in my dream, I wasn't going through infertility in my dream. It was just me. So when they gave it to me, I thought it was so weird. I was like, why are they giving me their baby? This whole place is, we're all gonna die here. Like this place is falling down. They gave me the baby, and then they just left. Like they just, and I was like, they gave me this job. Like I have to protect this baby now. Like that's why they gave it to me. They knew I was gonna make it out. And then when I had told my husband that, I'm like, I think I'm meant to have a boy first. I was like, I think the boy, like there's a boy waiting. Like I'm supposed to be this boy's mother. And he's like, yeah, you know, maybe they weren't people that were giving that to you. Maybe that was like God. Like maybe God was just handing it over to you. And that's why like he disappeared. And it was a sign. So my husband goes, I think we have to go back for the first one. So I was like, our little guy's been waiting for us. He's been frozen forever. He's put in the most work being frozen. He's so cold. He needs to be rescued. And my husband's like, he's ready to be rescued. He's a little like, you know, my husband watches Game of Thrones, and he's like, he's ready. Like no more ice. Like we're taking away the snow from him. And so I was like, it makes sense. Like this is why, like I have to go rescue, aka thaw out this boy that's been waiting for me. And so I went and I told the doctor, and I was like, I want to go to the first one, the very first one we ever froze. I had other boys that had the same grading in the second round, but I was like, no, the first one, there's something about the first one. I got like a sign. I think like I'm meant to be his mom now. So that's the one that I transferred in August, and I'm still pregnant with him.
Yay.
So it's like full circle. Like I feel like I was always meant to be his mom first. And I really do believe that that's why my other transfer didn't work. Mm-hmm. Not that my other ones in the future won't work if I choose to, you know.
Right.
But it's just like there was a plan and I was trying to like debunk that plan and it wasn't the plan. So it wasn't going to work. But this little guy was waiting. My husband's like, we made him wait so long. He was just trying to be our son. And we just told him, we'll come back. And he's like, now he's here to stay. So yeah, so that is sort of like where I am now.
I love it.
I just reached 6 months on Wednesday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my anxiety has not gone away, but I've heard that's pretty normal.
It is normal.
I actually started to feel like when I first got pregnant with him and I got the second positive beta, I almost felt like, and I feel so bad even saying this, but I almost felt like I just wanted it to like be over. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
Anybody? I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt then like it was going to end anyway. Like in my mind, I'm like, there's no way this could work. Nothing has worked for years. I even did a transfer and it didn't work. And so I almost felt like if it's gonna end, I want it to end right now. I don't want to be 7 weeks. I don't want to be 8 weeks. I don't want to be 9 weeks. I want to be like 2 weeks and it didn't work. And I said, I'll get over it. Like I was just so numb at that point that I couldn't really, even when they told me I was pregnant, I was sort of like, all right. Like it just, and it's so terrible to think about how you feel, how you're just like so robbed of those feelings of excitement. Like I didn't get to surprise my husband and be like, oh my gosh, we're pregnant, set up like this great little, no, like we were just, I was like, okay, I'm pregnant and now I'm stressed because now I'm thinking I'm not going to stay pregnant. And of course I was like losing my mind. I would just cry all the time. And then I started to see the marks from doing the progesterone. I think one night my husband hit like a blood vessel. God bless him though. Like he felt really bad about it and it wasn't his fault. But I think seeing the bruise on my body, it just reminded me of how much I put my body through. And just, I had like this breakdown. I was like, I cannot believe what I put my body through. And I'm just so nervous that it's going to be for nothing. And oh my God, it was really hard to go through that.
I bet.
Every single day I would wake up, I was like, am I still pregnant? Am I still pregnant? And then at 12 weeks, I had a scare. I had to go to the ER because I had like a lot of hemorrhaging. And I was like, you see, again, I go back instead of thinking like, okay, something's wrong, no, I was like, that's it. My pregnancy is ending. It's over. That's it. I'm done. And it ended up that I had a mild placenta previa.
Okay.
So I was bleeding a lot.
Wow.
But in my mind,
it's over.
Like, this is it. It's over. I knew it was going to be over. Of course it's over. Like, I'm like, I was waiting for this. And so it's just, like looking back, I know that, my journey is my journey for a reason, but it's just like, I think it's so hard not to compare your journey to someone else's because you just feel like, so like you can't enjoy certain things. And it's just like, you're just so envious of that pregnancy, happiness. But now speaking to other people who have gone through the same thing, I realize that it's totally normal and that other people are feeling that way too. It's, to not be super excited that you're pregnant right away or to be anxious seems to be pretty normal after going through that. And so that makes me feel a little bit better. At least.
That's good. Yeah. I have not yet spoken to one person who has said, yeah, I got pregnant and I didn't worry about a thing.
Right. But you assume that that's how it's supposed to go
Yeah.
until you, like you said, you talk to other people and you're like, oh my goodness, so you feel the same thing? And then it's
Yeah.
like, thank you. I'm not crazy. I'm not being
Right.
ungrateful. I remember just crying all the time in the beginning of being pregnant and thinking like, I'm so ungrateful, but it's not. It's just, I'm scared.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, when I think about when I was pregnant, it's like I didn't experience a loss, yet I still felt like it could very well happen to me, just like it happens to so many other women.
Right.
And I was afraid that it was all going to be taken away from me, that I got so excited. And then one day it'll just be all taken away. And I think it's the defense mechanism that we
Yeah.
so build in ourselves so well, that that's how it just kind of like, okay, I just want to be over with it. Or you just kind of like, what's the next? Because that's just how you process things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, being pregnant it's a miracle. I mean, no matter who you are, it's a
Yeah.
miracle. And to have a life living inside of you and you not really knowing what's going on at every second,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, it's just overwhelming. I know for me in the beginning, I listened with the Doppler and people were like, don't do that. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to, make it worse. But for me, it helped me.
Right.
And if she wasn't kicking, which she kicked a lot, but if she wasn't kicking, then it was like every day I had to wait, So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I had one of those days recently with no kicking, and I called my sister right away. She's like, how long has it been? I'm like, 2 hours. She's like, oh, Alicia. She goes, your baby is growing. It's exhausting to be in there. They cannot kick you to give you reassurance all day.
It's true.
She's like,
It's
that's
true.
exhausting for them. Let him grow. And then I
Yeah.
said, okay, but I just needed her reassurance. And then I sort of forgot about it. And then I went walking on the treadmill, and then he started kicking. And I was like, she was right. But initially, what, just a couple hours? And I'm like, that's it. He's not breathing. Something's not right. Like, it's just.
I know. Towards the end for me, I kind of like, I psyched myself out. I was like, I know it's so stupid, but I'm like, she's in there in fluid. Like at what point is she just gonna like stop, living in there,
Yes.
and she's gonna like, I'm just gonna start breathing.
Yes.
Like that's not even how it works, but for whatever reason I was psyching myself out. So I get it.
No, I get it too. I mean, no.
So it sounds like you really, really liked your reproductive endocrinologist.
Yes.
So would you like to share who that is?
Yes. So I live in North Jersey, although I would totally travel for her. So even if you're in like the New York metropolitan area or even anywhere in New Jersey, I mean, you do have to go early morning for appointments, but I went to the Fertility Institute of, I don't know what comes first, New York or New Jersey, but it's the Fertility Institute of New Jersey and New York.
Okay.
And her name, there's only two main doctors there. There's Dr. Levine, who is the male doctor there, who I've also heard wonderful things about. I just prefer a female. But if, the whole clinic is amazing. But my doctor was Dr. Barron, Dr. Berin, and she was incredible and so knowledgeable. And even when she was like really fast, I felt like she didn't come into the room, open my chart, and then read it then. She came into the room and she was like, this is what I think is going to be good for you. Talk to me. And I felt like I said, she had that motherly presence that was just, it was nice. It was really nice. And I felt like she was so smart, which gave me reassurance that whatever she was suggesting to me or, giving me the opportunity to choose myself was something that she really thought about.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
I really, really like that. I've actually recommended her to two of my friends that I have now since going public with my story when I was around 15 or 16 weeks to family and friends. I've had two friends actually reach out and they said, you know what, you've like inspired me and I think I want to freeze my eggs.
Wow.
And which is huge because I tell myself, had I known that, number of eggs doesn't equal quality of eggs.
Right.
I may have, thought about it a little bit differently. And I may have been like, okay, maybe I want to try to get pregnant at 30, but maybe I should sort of check on my eggs a little bit earlier and see if that, just to avoid some, trauma and my friends are around my age or older. Some of them have no partners. And so they're thinking logically. They didn't think that this was something that people like us did.
Yeah.
You know, people who are like young and healthy, like who's going to freeze their eggs? But I was like, no, it's so important to just try to plan for yourself and know that anything can happen to you and it's okay. It's totally fine. Just, you gotta make your way through it. So I was happy about that they started to feel like pursuing or looking into egg freezing was normal. And I was like, yeah. I'm so happy because it is normal and it's totally fine to do that if that's the right choice for you. Do not feel bad about protecting, your dream of wanting to have children one day.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's great. So as of now, the diagnosis is unexplained infertility, which I get, I have too, but the ERA is what helped, right? So maybe it's a progesterone thing, which for me, it was the same thing. So, that's all I know.
I also think it was how I look at it too now, even though I'm technically unexplained infertility and I have that diagnosis, I sort of gave myself like a me diagnosis, and I tell myself, knowing how many eggs I got and how many were able to be fertilized, and just like the big difference, I started to think to myself, maybe my egg quality wasn't that great. And so whatever I was doing to get pregnant naturally, my body was not going to, let's say I ended up producing the egg that month that was just not a good quality.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten pregnant. And it seemed that most of my eggs were just not of a great quality. And it gave me a little bit of like, okay, now I understand. Like now I understand why I couldn't do this on my own, because it didn't matter how many eggs I had or that I was ovulating or that my husband, was healthy. If my egg was not going to be that one good egg, it wasn't going to work. And so it gave me a little peace of mind. Like, I know Dr. Barron is not telling me that I don't have unexplained infertility, but now I'm going to just say it was my egg quality, and that gives me closure. So
yeah. Well, and it just makes sense to you. You got to put a name to it.
I had to. Yeah. I couldn't just not know. I had to. Yeah.
Right. So thinking back, because I love asking this question, if you were to talk to your younger self, what would you have said to her, before going into this journey that could have helped you along the way?
So I feel like looking back, I probably would have, and I don't know that I would have been able to do this, but I would have tried to talk to myself about this, that it's, I feel like pregnancy, at least growing up in my family and just in society, pregnancy is always looked as something like, okay, you meet someone, you fall in love, you get married if you so choose to, and then you just get pregnant. And I always felt like that story was like the only story. And I just wish so much, and I hope that more people start to do this, to understand from even like a younger age, that that's not always the journey to your baby. And I feel like had I not had that pressure of living up to that one rigid journey to the baby, I would have been able to navigate it a little bit easier, or maybe not feel so embarrassed or feel bad about it when it didn't happen for me. When I tell you I didn't know anybody who had gone through infertility, it seemed like everyone that I knew was, drinking a glass of water and getting pregnant. And so it was like, I wish I would have told myself, that might not be your journey, but that's okay, because there's other journeys. It's just this one that we read about in sex ed class, and the ones that our families always talk about they're the one, you get married, you have a baby, or you meet someone, you have a baby. And so I think that was the hardest pill for me to swallow, because I was like, are you kidding me? Everybody I know is accidentally, or oh, we just tried, it was so crazy, we're so surprised, we tried for just like a week. And I'm thinking that was supposed to be me. But so I feel like telling myself that would have also helped me to not be so hard on myself.
That's so good.
Because
That's really good.
it's not always black and white. Sometimes
It's not.
Sometimes it's a rainbow. It's like, yeah. And it's hard because nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
We really,
it's true. It's
so,
true. Is there anything different that you would say to someone who just found out that they have infertility, or they're thinking, gosh, I think I have infertility because I've been trying for so long and nothing's happening?
right.
Is there anything that you would tell them, maybe something that you haven't already said?
So I would probably tell them, which I've actually told some of my friends this, I would tell them to not let the stigma of, being a fertility patient, nobody wants to be, a fertility patient. Like, nobody wants that. But it's okay to look into your own health. If you know that your goal is to have a baby, or you know that your goal is whatever goals you have, you should always look into how you can make those happen, and know that there's no one way to make it happen. So I would say, I think in the beginning of my journey, I mentioned that I sort of put off telling my OB for 2 years because I was just so embarrassed, because I was healthy and I thought that she was going to just tell me, relax, it's going to happen. Yeah. But had I been more open to, the possibilities, and not have been, try not to been so hard on myself, I could have possibly found out about this earlier. So just don't be so hard on yourself about things that are not working, because it doesn't mean that they're never going to work. It just means that we have to find your path there, and it might not be so crystal clear at first. But advocate for yourself. Go to the doctors, ask the questions. Don't just sit back and expect it to happen for you. Any of your goals, really, even outside of fertility. This can go for anything. You have to be a go-getter, especially with fertility. You really have to fight for yourself a lot. But
you do.
But yeah, and it's okay if you don't want to tell other people. I didn't tell anyone, and I think that was the best choice for me. So you can still go to your appointments and do, whatever you have to do. If you choose to share, great, but don't feel pressure to share either. It's whenever you're ready. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. And you're certainly not alone. How I actually met our other wonderful face here is met virtually, was because I was secretly following her because I was going through what she was going through.
Wow.
And yeah, and I feel like there's so many people out there that are going through the same thing. So find your little tribe, and they don't have to be people that you necessarily know, but it was so reassuring to watch your journey, because I feel like I wasn't alone. It was almost like we knew each other, but we didn't. And so I had something I could relate to, because I was holding so much in by not telling other people. So that's another piece of advice. It's okay. Find those people on Instagram, find those bloggers who are going through it, because it helps you. It really does help you a lot. So, and it helps you to not feel so alone. And everybody is so darn welcoming. So it's like, yes, it's everybody's so kind, because we all know what an uphill battle this is.
Right.
So yeah.
That's so good. So good. It kind of reminds me of that I've seen it on a post that says something like, this isn't the club that anybody asks to be in, fertility. But now that I'm here, it's a pretty darn good one,
Yeah, of course. Like, what horrible way to bond, but best bonding. Honestly, yeah. It's amazing. I think a lot of people, like, if my friends and family had really, done their research, which they're not like crazy like me, but I was interacting and following so many IVF accounts and just people who've gone through IUIs. It was like, that was all I cared about, because in that moment, those were my friends. Like, those were people I was DMing. I know I DM'd you a bunch of times. I DM'd Erin from My Beautiful Blender. I just DM'd about everything, and everybody answers all my questions. It's like, I don't feel bad about not, the pressure to tell people now, because I have you guys, and it was like, it was the best, honestly. It was really nice.
That's so cool. I'm so glad we were able to connect. I'm thankful
Yes.
for, yeah, that, I always tell girls that if you're going through this, just like you said, like, get on Instagram. You can find those accounts,
Yes.
and
Yes.
find friends, find people you can connect with, and be reminded that you're not alone, because you
Right.
certainly aren't.
Right. Before going through this, I never knew the fertility community, honestly, that
Yeah.
they even existed. And
Yeah.
then it's like, whoa, you're blown away by, I mean, your exact journey is being experienced by someone else.
Yeah.
And then when you find that person, you're like, this feels right. I'm not crazy. This is what I'm feeling. And they felt it too. Um,
Yeah.
so it's really nice. Even being pregnancy after infertility, that's a whole new group of people in this wonderful community that now we're on the same page in our journey. And it's like,
Yes.
we're both feeling the same thing. We both have extreme anxiety. We're both wondering, oh my gosh, how's my anatomy scan going to go? My fetal echo. And we're both very stressed about. So it's,
Yes.
as the stages grow, you find people that are more along there with you. And I think it's just great.
It is great, because those women that are pregnant with you now are going to be the same women that you're going to ask questions about. Okay, so what's your little one doing, and how do you feel about this, and is this okay, am I doing a good job? And it just keeps going,
Yeah.
and then I'm in that wave of like, okay, thinking of the next and thinking of my frozen embryos. And so anyway, thank you, girl, thank you so much for sitting with me and sharing your
I
story
talk so
again.
much. I'm so sorry. Clearly,
No.
I'm passionate about this.
And you're such a good communicator, so you make it fun.